Asterisk. Before the towers rose, before the engines roared, there were cities made of brick, sweat, and silence. In the early 1800s, American cities were not yet symbols of power. They were muddy crossroads, dimly lit alleys, and rooms crowded with dreams. This is the quiet history of how those cities grew, how immigrants, merchants, laundresses, and orphans built America street by street. Tonight, we return to the corner's history, forgot, and walk again through the shadowed rise of the American city. Morning in the city, 1800 before sunrise. The city murmured. A single candle flickers in a window. Above a shopfront, cobblestones still wet from last night's rain glistened under a dull moon. The clatter of a milk cart echoes down the narrow lane. Somewhere, a church bell tolls 5. This is New York, or Boston, or Philadelphia. In 1800, American cities were not yet the engines of empire. They were muddy, crowded, and small. New York City had just passed 60,000 people. Most streets were the tallest building was likely a church steeple. Cattle were herded through the city center. Smoke from coal fires hung low over rooftops. Horses pulled water carts through alleys. Life moved slowly. A baker stokes his oven in silence. A chimney sweep, no older than 10, waits at a corner, coughing. Washerwomen wring shirts beside wooden tubs. And slowly, without fanfare, the bones of a new world were being laid. A night watchman dozes under a lantern post. Newspapers are printed by hand and shouted by boys, barefoot in the frost. The city was both alive and half asleep. Each corner held a secret, each building a story. The growing grid. 1A2A, between 1800 and 1820, American cities began to expand. Not vertically, but outward, like ink soaking into paper. Immigrants arrived, not yet in waves, but in steady drips. Farmers became storekeepers. Sailors became porters. In Boston, landfill projects created new ground for marsh and sea. In New York, the Commissioner's Plan of 1811 proposed a vast, mathematical grid that would impose order on chaos. Widows took in boarders to survive. Grid plans were drawn. Streets were measured. Bricks were laid in endless lines. In Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin's city, new neighborhoods sprouted west of the Schuylkill. The city was no longer just a port. It was becoming a machine. Each shop was a gear. Each street a pulley. At dawn, the shutters opened. At dusk, the last cart rolled away. Cities were loud and dirty and full of life, but they faced curfews, violence, and constant scrutiny. A black man might walk 2 miles out of his way to avoid trouble. A black woman might carry freedom papers for her children, though she was born in the North. But not everyone was welcome. Free black communities were forming, building churches, schools, and newspapers. Still, they endured. The immigrant tide, 1822-1850, from Ireland, Germany, Poland, and beyond, fleeing famine, war, and poverty. They arrived by the thousands, then tens of thousands, men with calloused hands, factory hands. The Germans opened beer halls and schools. The Jewish community sold goods from carts and opened tailor shops. The Italians would follow later, and others after them. Each street became a country. Bricklayers, seamstresses, laundresses, servants, newspaper boys. They built cities not by invention, but by repetition. Day after day, block after block. Women with infants strapped to backs. Children staring wide-eyed at their first city skyline. Nativist mobs. Fires set by hate. Catholic churches burned. But even in fear, communities huddled closer. They formed mutual aid societies. They buried their dead. They named their streets. They found boarding houses with rats and leaking roofs. Tenements where a single stove warmed 5 families. Streets where English was only one of many languages. Slurs followed them. So did suspicion, but so did work. Canal diggers. The Irish settled in waterfront wards. There were riots, too. The city grew, and the city changed. The age of iron, 1830 to 1850. Then came iron, steam-powered ferries. Iron rails cut across neighborhoods. Factories rose beside rivers. The hum of machines joined the city's music. In New York, shipbuilders fashioned the clippers that carried goods worldwide. Pittsburgh forged steel. Baltimore baked bricks. Chicago, not yet a metropolis, buzzed with the promise of rails and rivers. The textile mills of Lowell, Massachusetts, drew farm girls into dormitories and clocked shifts. The city was now a forge. Time was kept by bells and whistles. A girl might be born in a cottage and die in a sweatshop without ever seeing a field. Abolitionist newspapers, lectures by escaped slaves, union meetings, political clubs, dance halls, street parades. For every smokestack, a song. For every bruise, a rebellion. Boys ran to stoke fires. Women stitched until their fingers bled. Men died beneath collapsing beams. But in the cracks, wonder bloomed. Public libraries, progress was loud, but hope was louder. A divided city, 1850 to 1860 by mid-century. cities were no longer young. They had slums and theaters, mansions and gutters, schools and prisons. A family might live on the top floor with a piano and crystal, while 6 families crowded below them with nothing but kerosene and bread crusts. New York's Fifth Avenue glittered, the 5 Points fested. In Boston, Beacon Hill cast long shadows over immigrant flats. In Philadelphia, wealth and filth shared alleys. Doctors walked past. Beggars, senators, passed. Chimney sweeps. It was a place where a man could rise in one generation or sink in one night. Orphans sold apples, while factory owners debated tariffs. Sectional, political, racial, economic. The city was now a contradiction. From farms, young dreamers arrived by train. It was possibility and punishment. It was freedom and fear, and still they came. From the south, freedmen fled north. From Europe, new ships docked each week. The city pulsed, and as the 1860s approached, something else stirred. Tension. The city was a mirror, and in its reflection, America saw its future in. Its fracture. Before the storm in 1860, an old man in New York reads by gaslight. He remembers when the street was dirt, when water came in buckets, when he knew everyone on the block by name. A girl in Baltimore rides a streetcar and stares at women in corsets and parasols. She clutches a book by Harriet Beecher Stowe. A boy in Chicago sells papers, dodging carts and curses. He dreams of being someone else. A mother in Philadelphia rocks a sick child while smoke chokes the sky. And across the land, the drums begin to beat. Soon there will be war. The quiet hum of the city will be drowned by gunfire, protests, and mourning. But in these few final years, before the storm, the American city stood fully formed, messy, bold, divided, hopeful. It rose, not by accident, but by hands, not by law, but by labor. And beneath the brick and smoke, its heart still beat. Asterisk by 1860, the cities no longer slept. They breathed, groaned, and grew stacked with people, stories, and smoke. And yet, within the noise, something remained quiet. The footsteps of the unknown. The voices never written down. The hands that built the blocks but never owned the land. Thank you for walking with us tonight. If this quiet journey moved you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more forgotten echoes of the past. It just waited for us to listen. Asterisk, until next time. Sleep well, and remember, history was never loud.